Father Abraham had many sons. Bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum. No, we're not going to sing a song today, but we are going to talk about Abraham at a place called Beersheba. I hope you're able to join us. Shalom to you. Thanks for joining us as we talk about Abraham today. And don't be too scared off. I will not be singing the Abraham song. Although it's a great kid song, and I think most everyone knows of the song. So Father Abraham, we are going to talk about him. He came from Ur through Haran, way up in the Mesopotamia area before he traveled southward. A total of about 1,000 miles was his journey, and we're going to pick up the story in chapter 21. So we're so grateful that you're with us, and again, please subscribe to this teaching channel and hit the bell if you want to be updated and alerted of any new teaching or videos that we're going to produce. By the way, we will be transitioning into most likely showing some more on-hand, on-site teaching in the future weeks and months ahead, right from Israel and even sometimes from Egypt or Jordan or Greece. So we're going to expand our teaching, but we're going to remain loyal to our purpose of teaching the Bible in the context of this land that we call Israel, the playing board of Israel. So let's hop into our story from Genesis 21. The majority of the stories in the Bible took place in Israel. Today we travel towards the southern area of the land of Israel. It's called the Negev, the region of the Negev, and specifically a story that unfolds for us from Genesis chapter 21 involving Abraham in a place called Beersheba. Here is the area of Beersheba. There are two primary cities here in the northern Negev, this whole region below the hill country of Judah, and the Shvelah, or the lowlands. All of this region is the Negev, the northern region, and then below the screen, the southern part of the country. So when we travel and retrace the steps of Abraham from the land of Ur, he traveled 600 miles to a place called Haran. He settled there according to the Genesis account. He then continued 400 miles due south now, past Damascus, and into the land of Canaan. Hatzor, Shechem, no doubt he knew of Jerusalem, in those days called Salem. But then this map perhaps gives us a better idea of where he traveled through the heart of Israel today. There is Shechem, Bethel and Ai, Salem or Jerusalem, Hebron. He eventually went to Egypt before he returns to a place called Guerard, to the north and west of Beersheba. Guerard is this particular mound or archaeological site called a tell, thanks to Todd Bolin and his picture of this tell of Guerard, I should say. It doesn't look like much today, but most archaeologists believe that this is where Abraham was before he traveled another 15 or 16 miles to this place called Beersheba. Tel Beersheba, by most scholars and archaeologists, perhaps preserves the area of Beersheba, certainly in the days of Solomon, 1,000 years after, of course, Abraham. So many of the ruins that we see here in our aerial pictures are from the Israelite period, or the Iron Age, including a Solomonic gate with 3 chambers on both sides. Actually, 2 here, 2 there, and 3 parts of the gate. This city was built with rounded streets so that water or rainfall could be collected and diverted to the cistern system. A typical Israelite house looked like this. Let's zoom into this area. Again, this dates well past even the days of Solomon, most likely 9th century BC or 8th century BC, but you can see that here's the city wall. This was what is called a casemate wall that surrounded the city, and these pillars held the second floor of a typical 4-room Israelite house. We see these houses and the model of these houses all around Israel. I believe it was sometime in the 70s that this horned altar was found here, just beyond one of these rounded streets. It's now on display in the Israel Museum. And while we're talking about interesting archaeological discoveries here that really have nothing to do with our story, I think the most impressive thing here to see at Beersheba today is the cistern system. Look how deep we have to step down into the cistern. This is one of our groups from last year when it was being excavated about 10 years ago. All these ancient steps were uncovered. It's a remarkable excavation, all underground, and certainly water in this very dry and arid region that only receives maybe 7 or 8 inches of rain a year. Water was stored in these cisterns. But our story involves a well. Now, this well does not date to the time of Abraham. It's actually located right outside the city wall. We'll talk about the well in our story and this water trough at the end of our presentation today. But these old pictures that I could find maybe more accurately portrays what a typical Bedouin shepherd would do today, coming to a water well dug deep enough to reach the aquifer, because water was obtained this way. There was great demand for owning a well of water. Here is another older picture that portrays lowering a bucket on a rope down to the water table, or the aquifer table level, I should say, and securing water for camels and for sheep and goats. So here in about the beginning of the 20th century BC, sometime around there, let's just say, generally speaking, 1950 BC. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, "God is with you in everything you do." They obviously knew who Abraham was. They knew of his journeys most likely to Egypt and now settled in Guerard. They knew of his wealth and the size of his flocks and his esteem, if you will, in this region. "Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show to me and the country where you are living as an alien the same kindness I have shown to you." And Abraham said, "I swear it." Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, "I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today." So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock. And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves?" He replied, "Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well." So that place was called Beersheba, because the 2 men swore an oath there. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines, and Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called upon the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. Now, the Philistines didn't officially, en masse, appear in the land of Israel until about 1200 BC. Could this be an early wave of just a handful of sea peoples, as the Philistines were called by the Egyptians? That's not really our focus of the story, but certainly Abraham and Abimelech, who made a treaty. Now, the word Beersheba is made of 2 Hebrew words, Sheva, which means 7, and Be'er. So this combination of 2 Hebrew words, Beersheba, means the well of oath, or the well of 7, literally. And yet this well was a place where this treaty was made. Now, Abraham then planted a tamarisk tree. This one actually isn't doing so well on the other side of the well, outside the city walls today. This well, incidentally, is about 50 or 60 feet deep. But a tamarisk tree in the middle of the Negev can actually look like this. It does not need much water, similarly like the acacia tree. But let's end with our story by talking about, once again, the well. Here at Beersheba there was a well. Of course, the one dating to the time of Abraham is no longer here, nor will it ever be found. But yet this is an interesting attachment to the well. You can see it's a water trough. Now, if you were a shepherd in the days of Abraham, or Isaac, who was here in Genesis 26, or Jacob, who was here in Genesis 46, or Elijah, who was here in 1 Kings 19, they all would have been familiar with the well. If you were a shepherd bringing your flocks to the well, you would draw from the well, and with your bucket, fill this water trough to overflowing. Your sheep and your goats would drink. As long as they were thirsty, they would stay and enjoy the trough of water. That makes me think of what the psalmist would eventually write about in this most familiar Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Think of this water trough as a cup. Think of a good shepherd, a faithful shepherd, who cares for his flock by keeping the trough filled to overflowing with water. And as long as they were thirsty, he would draw water, one bucket after another, and fill the trough to overflowing. That's precisely how we can approach God. He is our good shepherd who abundantly keeps his cup overflowing with goodness towards us. I once heard that a pessimist views his cup as half empty. An optimist is someone who views his cup as half full. And yet the psalmist here, from Psalm 23, views his cup as overflowing. I'm grateful that this story reminds us of God's sovereignty and his care for us, as he cared for Abraham, as Abraham made a treaty over the ownership of the well here. I'm glad that we can approach the Good Shepherd, God himself. So making a pledge or an oath is a very important part of our walk of faith. Now here around this well in Beersheba, of course, Abraham made this covenant with Abimelech, and certainly that marked the importance of the well, the ownership of the well, but it sort of set up, if you will, a treaty or an oath or an agreement between Abraham and his family and this guy's family as well. We find honor and respect when we do that with one another. And yet God calls us to be people of covenant. And that's certainly another term that enters into the picture, another term in the Bible. Barit is the name of the Hebrew word, whereas Sheva is a word that means promise or oath. Barit is another even more powerful word that conveys the whole idea of covenantal relationship with God. As he covenants with us and offers himself, we are in turn to offer ourselves as we pledge and promise our allegiance, if you will, our oath, our covenant to him as followers of God. So great story from Genesis 21, and I hope that you enjoyed it. So until next time, we hope to see you again. Have a great day and a blessing from God above. Thanks and shalom.